The East Union soccer team has nothing short of a NorCal title on their minds this season.
But as our Brian Mueller tells us, this season was about more than a championship. It was also about Chaka.
The East Union soccer team season is wrapping up like so many others have, with a deep playoff run into February. But the way it started was unlike any other year.
Chaka on me! Chaka on three! 1, 2, 3, Chaka!
It's how the Lancers break every time, to honor their late teammate known as Chaka, Irvin Mendiola.
If you knew him for 5 minutes, you get a kick out of it.
Because he's one of those kids that you always wanted to be around.
Irvin, he was funny. He was a funny guy. Always happy, very loud. When sometimes when he come from school, Mom, what do you cook? He was always hungry, always hungry.
Irvin also had an endless appetite for soccer. He started playing as a little kid and grew to be an elite player with an innate feel for the game.
He had a lot of vision. He wasn't fast, but when he had the ball, he knew where everything was.
Soccer was his life. Every time he had an injury or broken finger or anything, he will cry because the doctor said, oh, you cannot play. You need to wait for maybe a few weeks. He used to cry all the time.
Irvin was practicing with his Surf Soccer Club in late September last year. Everything about the day was normal until late in the practice when Irvin collapsed. Irvin's father and his teammate Gio were both there.
We thought he was playing around because usually that's how we would mess around. But once I saw that he was actually not responsive or any of that, that's when I started kind of getting scared. And then that's when we called the coaches back on the field and everything happened.
In the field, I just feel my son getting cold. I said, oh, and Cooper is like, I think he's not breathing.
Irvin was without a pulse for 18 minutes. Life-saving measures were performed on the field, and he was rushed to the hospital where his heartbeat was eventually restored. East Union soccer coach Ronnie Green was at the hospital with the family.
When it first happened, we had hope, and we prayed, and we tried, you know, we tried to support the family as much as possible, but then it just, you know, it was God's turn to take him.
The damage to Irvin's brain was too much. Irvin Mendiola passed away on October 6, 2022, at the age of 17.
I was heartbroken, I was crying, I didn't know how to react. I was just very heartbroken, very, very heartbroken.
I was confused and angry because it was like, why him? He was always banged up, he couldn't play, and he was always supporting us, he was always out at the games.
So Irvin's teammates and the soccer community made sure to show up for him. His funeral service was attended by teammates and coaches from Sacramento to San Diego.
So many people around came for one kid, and it just shows how big, how Irvin was, how strong, how powerful Irvin was. Really seeing that many people going to his funeral.
The first thing that I remember was in my mind, like my son touched a lot of life. Everybody loved Irvin.
That feeling of love for Irvin will never stop at East Union. The team is keeping his memory alive in multiple ways.
Before a game, I always take one of these off and put it on my ankle, my right ankle. And every time I score, I do a little prayer.
I do a prayer on my own, and I always just look up in the sky, and I thank him for everything that he's done. And I know he's there with me, even though not physically, but I know he's there with me, and that motivates me to keep going.
As a team, both the Lancers and their opponents say a prayer before games with Irvin's jersey. East Union renamed its annual soccer tournament the Irvin Classico, and Irvin's parents and siblings still attend East Union games.
I think this is their outlet, to be honest. It's their way to stay with Irvin and soccer.
It's emotional, sometimes I don't got words to say, but it's tough. It's really tough. But like I say, I'll be there for the boys. But believe me, it's really, really hard. Really, really hard.
I try to be positive. I try to be strong for them, but it's not easy.
There's no happy ending when a young man's life ends, especially one that filled so many others with joy. But the Mendiolas and this East Union team are doing the only thing they can, making sure the memory of the man known as Chaka will live on, long past the final whistle.
If you knew Irvin, He want you to keep his name alive. And that's what I'm doing. That's what all of us here are doing. Everyone's doing. We want to keep his name alive. LLC, Long Live Chaka.
Long live Chaka, and Chaka forever, for real. 17 forever.
Everybody's going to remember him like always.
Reporting in Manteca, Brian Mueller, 49ers Sac-Hi Sports.
Coach Green says he plans to retire Irvin's number 17 jersey at East Union, an incredible kid who touched so many lives.
Yeah, such a tragedy.